What's up, everyone? Welcome to Lowered Expectations. Thanks for lowering your expectations and hanging out with me here. I do appreciate it. Not too long ago, I made a video on a waste oil burner, and I did you guys the disservice of not showing the startup. I'm gonna do that right now. I've got to replace a piece of fuel line that overheated when I shut it down last night. I'm gonna use a better quality fuel line, and then we'll do a quick startup. The camera focuses and sees orange or yellow flames very well, but the blue flames are very hard to pick up, and if you do pick up the blue flames, then it doesn't pick up any surrounding light. So you almost have to zoom in on it and then lower the light. Anyway, I'm gonna go replace a piece of fuel line, then we will do a real-time startup and see how long it actually takes. I don't think I've actually timed it before, so we'll see how long it takes before the blue flames start shooting out the top. Once I get it started, I think I'll kind of talk a little bit about the design a little bit more. I didn't talk about that much in the previous video, so I'll go into a little bit of detail about the heater. Aftermath from stuff we were doing last night. Turned a transmission into a bunch of ingots. Got a little crucible there. Over on the shelf, we've got ingots from the transmission. We've done 5 pours in total now. So we're gonna be rich soon, as soon as we take them into the scrapper. I shut this down last night, and I've kept this half of a propane tank. It's kind of an emergency fire shutdown. You can just put this over the top and it will smother it out. It does make a considerable amount of smoke when you do that, but in an emergency you can shut it down pretty quick like that. A bunch of pieces of paper towel here. I'm going to stuff these into the chamber. Some of these have been used for wiping up oil already, so they've got quite a bit of oil on them. I'm just going to put them in around the air tube. This oil was sitting in the garage overnight, so it is warm. That may make it flow through a little better. Once the heater is on, of course, the oil does warm up a little bit in here, so it helps it flow, but I'm assuming on a very cold day, it's going to be really slow to run through. There we go. So apparently we burned about 6 liters last night. The rags don't need to be completely saturated. I'm just going to get a good coating on there. Kush, are you upset Andy's in the garage? Okay, oil's been running in for about a minute. I'm going to light up the paper towel with this torch, if the torch will light. Oh, there we go. Light the paper towel in a few spots. Let it burn for a couple of seconds, and then turn the air on. Fire the air up. It does make a funny whistling sound when it's cold, especially if you turn the air up quickly. Fortunately, that goes away once it's warm. Fan's at about half right now. I'll give it a few seconds there and then turn it up all the way. Alright, we're going up all the way. What seems to help quite a bit when it's starting up is to agitate or stir the oily rags around. I think that gets more of the oil vapors into the airstream, and yeah, you guys will see it'll flare up quite a bit here when I start stirring it. how the camera is picking that up, but we've got nice blue flames shooting out from the top and from all four sides of the air tube. On the camera, it looks considerably more orange than it does in person. Give that a few minutes, come back and check on it. The heater's been running for about an hour now, probably closer to 45 minutes. As you can see, a nice blue flame. I do have a couple metal bars sitting over the top. That seems to actually help the burn quality. You might be able to see a hint of orange flame coming out the top, and that is actually because I've left the oil running at full flow the whole time, and it's actually starting to get quite full. This heater will hold about 1.5 liters before it starts to do this, and once it is up to this level, I can now shut the oil flow off. Not sure if you guys can see this valve. I can shut the oil flow off, and it will continue to burn now fairly well for about 45 minutes. What determines how quickly the oil burns is actually how fast the fan is going. Basically what happens is the faster the fan is going, the more aggressive the flame is. The more aggressive the flame is, the hotter the oil gets, and so the more oil flashes off. So if you turn the fan down, it actually makes a little less heat and burns for a little longer. I've got it cranked up to full here today because I don't have the tarp up, and we're just trying to take the chill off. My shirt's gonna catch on fire if I stay here much longer, so I'm gonna step aside and let you guys watch this beautiful blue flame. The heater is now running away outside. Hopefully you guys can tell there is a nice blue flame. It seems to burn a little bit better with those two metal flat bars across the top. I think it's because I cut the hole in that top baffle plate a little bit too large. In the last video, I kind of pointed out that the height of that baffle, or whatever you want to call it, is fairly important. In order to hold that in place, what I did is actually drilled 3 holes through the side, and I have a couple of nuts and bolts that just go through. I did that because I wasn't sure about the location. I thought about just welding it in place, but this way it makes it real easy to remove that piece and clean it out. I think we'll go outside a little later and I'll grab my carbon monoxide meter and the meter that checks carbon dioxide, formaldehyde, and total volatile organic compounds. I thought I'd talk a little bit about my oil filtration. I got a paint strainer off of Amazon. This was $25. It's 250 microns, and it seems to work really well for this. Before using this, I was just using a piece of a t-shirt over the top of the bucket, and I should say that this sits over the top of a 5-gallon pail or 20-liter pail. So I had a lid cut out and I was just using a piece of t-shirt. Whoa! I was using a piece of t-shirt and filtering through this. That is a very fine filter, and it takes a very long time for the oil to flow through. With the paint filter or paint strainer, it pretty much filters as fast as you can pour it, and it's a lot less messy. It's a lot easier to deal with. I would highly recommend getting one of these, even after dropping it on the floor. No harm, no foul. Once I have my oil filtered, I actually have it in this 20-liter pail. So I actually filter the oil into a pail like this. And then what I do is I put it into a 20-liter jerry can. So about a 5-gallon jerry can. And then just so that it's easier to handle, I pour it into these. I could pour it directly from this into the jet ski fuel tank, the oil tank outside. But I like using this kind of as a storage tank, and it's a lot easier to handle or manage these. Look at this absolute grossness. This would have 100% jammed up my fuel line and my valve. Yeah, this is some pretty nasty stuff. It will burn just fine in the heater, but it won't go through the valve or the fuel line. I don't know why, but the camera seems to be picking up the blue color of the flame much better now and not showing so much orange. As you guys can hopefully tell, this is burning really clean. I do have the fan cranked up all the way, and I have the oil flow set so that it's maintaining a level. It's probably got about 1 liter of oil burning in there all the time. I think it's burning about 1.5 liters an hour. What I'm going to do now, I've already got the meters turned on, so I'm measuring carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, TVOC, and formaldehyde. I don't remember the exact numbers, but I believe 50 parts per million of carbon monoxide is safe for an 8-hour workday, according to OSHA and some other organizations. Ideally, you have none. I'm also going to check carbon dioxide and a couple other things. I don't know exactly what the numbers mean, but I do know that I ran this meter in my garage with my vehicle and with a diesel heater, collected a bunch of data, and so when this says that the air quality is okay or good, it's fairly dependable. So we're going to take a look at the meters now. I'm going to hold them high enough above the heater so they're not getting burnt, but yeah. So I'm sure somebody will be upset that I'm not holding them in the flame, but yeah, that just doesn't work. So the carbon monoxide was reading at about 16 parts per million. It's dropping now that I've taken it down off the little shelf up there. It's in the fresh air now. And this meter is reading formaldehyde at 0.020. It says it's good. It's reading TVOC's good at 0.009. And CO2 385, that's what the background CO2 is. So without any fire going at all, that's what it reads. So 385 is good. That's where we're at. There is our fire. I can tell you guys standing here that I can smell an oily burning smell. I can tell that it's not a wood fire or a propane fire, but it's not overwhelming. So let's see what the meters have to say. Scan up. I am probably 3 feet above the fire. Let's give these a few seconds. My hands are getting quite hot here, so I'm going to have to move around a bit probably. Alright, so carbon monoxide, 22 parts per million. So not ridiculous, not dangerous. I saw it as high as 24. Wow, that's hot. Okay, we're going to call that 22 parts per million so that I don't burn my fingers. And we can see CO2 levels are not going up at all. It's 385. TVOC is 0.05949. So that's milligrams per cubic meter, and the formaldehyde is kind of going between 0.020 and 0.010. So as you guys can see, it's burning fairly clean. This is very similar to what you would get coming off of a diesel heater. So there we have it, some data. I I did do a build video on this, but I didn't explain it in any detail whatsoever. So I'll kind of go over it a bit and give a quick breakdown, give some details about the air injection system, because I think that's the most important bit. So I've got a half of a propane tank that I've used here. So this piece here was cut at the seam. This is approximately half a propane tank. It's got 3 legs welded on it. This is an old piece of galvanized fence post, and I removed the galvanizing from it because I was welding it onto here. I've got a piece of square tubing that I just used because I had it and it was very easy to poke a hole in it and put the round tubing in without, it just made it way easy to make what I'm making. So the video that I copied from, Creative Inventions, actually uses round tubes all the time. And that could be better because the flame in my burner actually has dead spots. That might make it work better, it might make it work worse. I'm not sure because I've never made one with a round tube. What I mean by that is my air comes in through this round tube. This square tube is capped off on the bottom and the air is all forced up through here. We've got 5 holes in each side of the tubing. So 5, 10, 15, 20. There's 2 at the bottom, 1 in the center, 2 at the top. And then this top piece has 9 holes in a 3x3 grid. They're all 3mm holes, which is about 1/8 of an inch, I believe. And what I was saying earlier about the round tube maybe being better, these air holes all blow directly out in kind of a plus pattern, as you guys would have seen from the flame pattern. If you have a round tube and you space everything equally, then you're going to have some air shooting out in where I have dead spots. So because mine has all 5 holes pointing this way, this way, this way, and this way, you can actually see the carbon spot here, 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 and here. And then you can see a very white spot here, 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 and here. And the white spots are where the blue flame comes out and actually hits the side of the tank. Another thing that's quite important is the baffle or the lid, the top, whatever you want to call this thing. I believe the hole in here is a little too big, and that's why it actually works better when I put some steel bars across the top. If this hole were probably 6 inches around, maybe 7, what is it now? Let's see. It is about 8 1/4 across. And yeah, probably if this were 6 inches, it would work way better. But as it is, I can just set those steel bars across the top. I do have another piece of a propane tank that I could test that theory with. And I might actually do that because I want to try to use an actual stovepipe from a house, a 6-inch stovepipe. So I might give that a try at some point in the future. If I were doing it again or in the future, I might change the way that the fuel line goes in. I think I mentioned earlier I may get a piece of copper line. I have had issues with my fuel line melting. But yeah, that's basically it. This piece of pipe happens to fit perfectly over my blower fan. I did not plan on that at all, but it just perfectly slides over there. I don't need to use a hose clamp or anything. And the only other thing besides the size of the hole or the opening in the baffle or lid is how high or low it sits. Depending on where you actually have this, the height of this lid or baffle, it quite drastically changes the quality of the flame. If I remove this altogether, the flame gets very, very orange, starts burning quite dirty and very smelly. So this is definitely a necessary part. From the bottom of the propane cylinder to where I cut it is about, I would say, about 6 inches, maybe 6 1/4 inches. And the placement of the lid, I put some bolts on here that hold it about 1/2 an inch, maybe 5/8 of an inch from the top. So from the bottom of the tank, they're about 1 3/4 inches up. I think if I were to build this again, I would put those holes probably another 1/2 inch higher. The total length of this square tube, that's 5 1/4 and 2 1/2, so 7 3/4 total length on this tube. I've had a few people recommend that I use gas or a mixture of gas and oil to start the heater to make it start quicker and easier. So I've got probably 1/2 cup of gas in it now. I am aware it's going to start with a bit of a oomph. Alright, not too energetic. Turn the fan on right away. And as you can see, fires up instantly. Now what is going to happen, it will burn away most of the gas before it starts burning the oil, but this will get it most of the way there. It'll get it hot enough so that it doesn't take very long for the oil to start burning. And there we have it, folks. Another night sitting around the fire. Tonight, just the oil heater going. Editing some videos. Got Kush over here laying in the corner. What a lovely night for a fire. Let's go in the garage now and I'll give you guys some final thoughts on this heater. I've got a few goodies to show you guys behind me here on my toolbox, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the heater. But before we do, there's something very important that I probably should have mentioned earlier in this video, and that is that water and oil definitely do not mix. Most people know that, but even a single drop of water in this heater can make it go wildly out of control. I actually played around with this a little bit because I wanted to know how bad it actually would be. A single drop out of a straw, so like a McDonald's straw or whatever, a single drop of water or pop out of that is enough to make the flame go from something sensible, so like 6 or 8 inches, to my full standing height. Literally, you get flames shooting out of that thing, a big orange flame that is literally probably a couple inches over my head. Don't set it up so that you're going to be boiling water over the top of it or anything. If you're cooking something over the top of that and any of the water got into the heater, you're going to have a very, very bad day. Best case scenario, you're not going to be able to drink whatever was in that pot because you're going to get a lot of oily smoke in around it. Worst case scenario, somebody could get seriously hurt or you could burn your house down or something. So just be aware of that. I am planning on making a modification to this one. I might actually build a second one to satisfy some viewers, but this one works so extremely well. I had a whole bunch of people give me advice on making this one better, but it just works so good, so effortlessly that I hate to tinker with it. I might build another one to do some stuff, but people have recommended that I have a separate dish or piece or fabric or something that acts as a wick or something to flash the oil off, and it would reduce the amount of ash. Other people have recommended that I use a flue or a chimney, and I'm not disputing the fact that that stuff might make it more efficient or actually run a little bit better, but it works so extremely well with such little effort. I really don't want to mess with this one, so I might build a second one. What I am going to do is I've got this 30-pound propane tank. I bought it on a local buyer seller, and I actually had to spend the last few days burning fuel out of it because I got it for $25 and it came probably about half full of propane, maybe a quarter full of propane. So I've been using Andy's Big Buddy heater to heat the garage with propane for the past few days. It actually took over 48 hours to burn up the propane. What I recently got is this. It is a fuel pump. I don't know the name of it. I can never say the name of it. Paralastic, something. I'll try to put the name up here. And this is able to deliver between 10 milliliters and 250 milliliters a minute. So that is going to be my fuel delivery system. At least I'm going to give it a try. And this is a stainless steel coil. It is 1/2-inch tubing. Kind of don't want to open up the packaging, but I'll do it for you guys. It's got to be done at some point, I suppose. This stainless steel tubing is going to sit inside of that 30-pound propane tank. And then basically, I don't know the exact design yet, but I'm going to have the flames from either that heater or a new heater that I build going up past the stainless steel tubing, and I'm going to run fittings on either end of this pipe, and then I'm going to pump water through it, and I'm going to use this coil and one of these heaters to heat some water. The plan, I'm not going to commit to anything, but the plan is to actually drill a couple holes through my footing in my garage, set this thing outside, and then plumb hot water into my garage so I can actually heat my garage with either a car radiator, or I might actually fork out the money and buy a proper HVAC, water to air heat exchanger. I might get real crazy and eventually decide to plumb some of it into my house or something, but that gets a lot more complicated because the only good space to put that, to put a water to air heat exchanger would be in the laundry room, actually in my furnace. And yeah, I'm not sure that I want to commit to that. It's a pretty big step. So what we're going to do first of all is actually build something that will heat water. Then we'll decide what we're going to do with that hot water. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about this. It's turned from, hey, maybe this idea will work, but it probably won't work very well, to, wow, this actually works really well, to, I can not just burn up oil and heat up outside, but I can probably heat up my garage and save a few dollars in the process. I do have other videos coming. I'm going to be doing a video for Vevor on a new Chinese diesel heater that has a carbon monoxide detector built in that will shut itself down if it goes too high. You guys may have noticed there's a ice fishing tent outside. It's not actually that cold, but I've made a commitment to Vevor to actually make that video, so I'm gonna have to shoot the video some night to actually have a little bit of cold weather. It hasn't even been dropping below freezing, so maybe I'll talk to them and see if I can postpone the video a bit, but I'm guessing they won't like that idea. What else? Yes, I am working on the 1100cc big bore engine for Jacob from the Jet Ski Brothers. I have been doing some porting on that engine. I've removed the sleeves, and yeah, I haven't been able to get a whole lot done with it, but I am making progress. That is going to do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.
You're gonna go real good or real bad or not so bad. You don't know. Man, I made a really bad face. My camera's pointing right at me. It's just because it sounded so bad.